Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome to Subtract Nauseam. So now, for those of you who are familiar with the concept of ad nauseam, which is a module that was recently made by Speaking Evil, this module is exactly the same concept, but except made by vFlyer, and it's actually fairly simpler than ad nauseam, because there's a couple different changes that have been made, um, which we're going to go into in just a moment. So first off, the concept of time of this module has been completely stripped. Normally with ad nauseam, I think it's 180 seconds that you have. Let me make sure. 150, excuse me. So you'd have 2.5 minutes to essentially be given. You have to answer 20 questions and enter in a response using this big fact grid over here. Um, but now, a couple things have changed. Number one, you don't need 20 prompts anymore. It's only 10 for this one, 10 of these prompts, and you will begin, and the module will begin counting up the time taken instead. So instead, there's no limit to how long you can go for this module. And honestly, the concept, and honestly, this module itself is fairly simple to do. Now, this can obviously be your first one that you can learn for the nauseam, since this one is the much easier one, but just keep in mind that there are big differences between these two, and honestly, I like having ad nauseam under my belt, because this one just makes it look like it's a piece of cake. Subtract nauseam is so much easier than ad nauseam, and plus I find ad nauseam a lot more fun, to be honest. But the difference between these also is a couple other things. So obviously we have unlimited time with this thing. We can go up to the maximum 999, and he made everyone do an open book test and forgot to add a deadline for this. So yeah, it really takes away the whole time factor of it, and it cuts the prompts in half. And one other thing also, it also makes the zero equation not it also has the possibility of giving zero as an answer rather. Um, but the prompts are going to be the exact same, because the prompts we have here are the Q hash, which in this case refers to what question number you are currently at. It's a fairly simple one to do. The odd or even, the correct answer is the only one with the displayed parity. The minimum or the maximum, it's the correct answer is the smallest or the largest with the four possible answers. And the x, it's going to be x by some sort of like factor, like plus, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, to a number, which in this case, the correct answer is the result of the displayed operation with the previous correct answer substituted into x. So you will not see this until later on, and number is the correct answer is the result of the displayed operation. It also shows you refers to how many of those prompts can show up on each attempt. So in this case, we're going to get one of these, two of these, one of these, and four of the number. So now we're going to take note of the correct answers and the directions on the button which they were displayed. This is all similar to ad nauseam for those of you who are familiar with this. But another difference here that you're going to immediately realize is this is not in base 4, whereas ad nauseam was in base 4. This is in base 3 now. So this is where things get a bit interesting. So we're going to take the last 4 base 3 digits of the result, padding leading zeros into the result if there aren't 4 digits. So in this case, 11 in base 3. And the way that base 3 works is essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be multiplying to the power of 3. So it's going to be 3 to the power of 3, 3 to the power of 2, 3 to the power of 1, and 3 to the power of 0. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out how many times each of these can go into the actual number before it goes on to the next base, for example. So 3 to the power of 3 is 27, because 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, which is just essentially 3 squared. Times that by 3 is going to be 27. 9 times 3 is 27. 3 to the power of 1 is just 3. Is just 3 itself. And 3 to the power of 0, anything to the power of 0 is always going to result in a total of 1. So there we go. But this is essentially what we're looking at here, and what we're going to try and do is we're going to get the result in base 10, and we're going to essentially try and figure out how many times each of these individual numbers can go into this, and that's going to be how we're going to get our base 3 number. It's kind of the way that I like to think about it, is essentially just you're adding up everything together. So, okay. But that is essentially what we're going to be doing here. That's another big difference between ad nauseam and subtract nauseam, and there is actually a reason why subtract nauseam doesn't like that. It's very important why, and I'll get into that in just a moment. Now, what's going to happen here is on the grid of symbols below, we're going to start at the 2x2 center of the square marked in the gray. I'm actually going to get this thing going. As you can see, this is definitely significantly a lot smaller. simply because of the fact that it's not 20 questions like ad nauseam would be. It is only 10. So let's get right into this. We want to press any module to start the we want to press any of these buttons to start it. And as you can see, now we're going to be given a prompt in the middle here and a series of different answers. The maximum of these is going to be the 7, and that's going to be marked in the down position. So we're going to get that. Now, x minus 5. X represents the previous answer, which in this case it was a 7. 7 minus 5 is going to be 2. That's in the up position. The odd is going to be 7, which is on the right position. 10 minus 5 is going to be 5 in the left. Odd is going to be 3 in the right. 63 divided by 9 is going to be 7, which is left. 3 minus 1 is going to be 2, which is down. Minimum is going to be the 0, which is left. 0 now has the possibility of actually being an answer on this, as I just mentioned beforehand. So that's going to be your answer. 2 plus 7 is going to be 9, which is in the up position. For our last question, that was question 10. We're going to use the last digit of the current question number, which is going to be 0, and it's going to be off to the right. And now we're changed into the submission mode of this. We've got the symbols here, and let's get right back into this. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to space all this stuff out like I normally did in ad nauseam. This is going to be very familiar for those of you who are familiar with ad nauseam. And now, what we're going to do is, first things first, let's add up all of our numbers here. So we have, in this case, we've got 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 5 plus 3 plus 7 plus 2 plus 9. The zeros obviously don't count. They're not representing 10 or something like that. And in this case, we get 42, for example. Now what we want to do is we want to convert this into base 3, and we're essentially going to subtract the highest power that we can, as many times as we can. That would obviously work for us. So we can subtract 27 here, because we can do this how many times? We can do it 1 time. So this represents 1 for 3 to the power of 3. We can subtract 9 as well. So we can do minus 9. Okay. Now how many times can 3 fit in here? 3 can fit into 6 2 times, because minus 3 fits. So we can do 2. And this 0 is not going to fit into any 1s that we have here, so this is just simply going to represent a 0 for this one. And just like that, we have figured out our current base 3 positions. So that is that taken care of. So let's get right into the second part of this thing. And this is probably going to be the little bit of the wonkier part. Not the actual moving around in the grid, but the way that the essentially setting up is. So let's get right into this. So now what we need to do here is we need to, on the grid of symbols below, we're going to start the 2x2 square marked in gray, which is going to be here. And what's going to happen here is we're going to remove the same amount of left and rights and ups and downs, or simply just focus on how many times the lefts and rights occur. Essentially what's going to be happening here is we need to note down 2 of every particular direction. We're going to move the 2x2 square 1 step in that direction in the grid. So in this case, if we take a look here, down, we're going to move down 1 space. So we're going to move down 1 space. Now, generally what I'd like to do here is I like to check if there's any sort of direction that cancels it out. And in this case, there actually is an example. There's 2 of down and there's 2 of up. So in this case, both of these guys are essentially going to cancel out because it's going to go 1 step down like this, and then it's going to go 1 step up back to the position, back to the original position here. So next up, rights and lefts. Right has 3 rights, and left has 3 lefts. Now, the way that this works is we don't do anything with that extra right. We only do 1 right in this case, because we only have 2. We only have 2 of that direction. If there was another right, we would do another 2 of that direction. But it needs to be 2 of a particular direction. Any extras we don't care about. So in this case, what's going to happen here is that with the rights and lefts, these are both going to also cancel out because of the fact that they have the exact same amount of 2 of a particular direction. In this case, right is 1 of those, and left is 1 of those. So in this case, we're going to stay exactly in the middle. And the way that you can check you have the correct answer is if the symbols match. If the symbols match within the actual position that you're in, if they're present on the module. In this case, we have hashtag, we've got ampersand, we've got dollar sign, and we've got the euro sign, or whatever it's called. I'm not quite sure if it's a euro. But in this case, all of these are present in the 2x2 grid that we're currently in, so this is likely to be the correct position. Because a lot of the other positions, as you can see, they have like sort of this percentage sign, and it's obviously very difficult to avoid that. One right would be the other possibility if that was the case, but let's not worry about that for right now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the first occurrences of each letter in the serial number. this is the part where things get a little bit weird, and this is actually another key difference here. So, with ad nauseam, you would be doing the exact same thing. We're going to take the first occurrences of each letter in the serial number and assign symbols to each. This is essentially what we're going to be doing here. So, the difference between subtract nauseam and ad nauseam is the fact that it wants you to arrange these letters in alphabetical order in ad nauseam. It wants you to arrange them in reverse alphabetical order and rearrange the symbols accordingly. And also, if there happens to be less than 4 distinct letters in the serial number, apply the above steps to only the last symbols in subtract nauseam compared to the first symbols in ad nauseam. So, subtract nauseam is only to the last symbols, and the ad nauseam is only to the first symbols, leaving the last in place, yada yada. It's basically the opposite in the steps. Reverse alphabetical, last symbols, and then for ad nauseam, it is alphabetical, first symbols. That's the way that this works. So, that's what we're going to be looking at here. So let's take a look and let's see what letters we have in our serial number. We have a Lima, Bravo, and a Whiskey. So in this case, we're going to leave this first position alone. We're not going to put that at the end. So we're going to leave the first position alone, and we're not going to care about it for right now. Now what we're going to do is, I like to build a 2x2 grid of just the numbers. So we're going to take a look at this here. And now what we want to do is we want to essentially order these guys in reverse alphabetical order. And I like to leave them with zeros, like the 0, 1, 2, 3, essentially, because they're going to be coded in 0 through 3 here. And I like to just build the grid of numbers and then correlate it to the actual thing on the grid instead of actually copying the symbols down. So in this case, we know that we're leaving the first symbols in place for this one. So we know that this is going to be a 0 guaranteed for the position right here. That's just the way that that works. Likewise, if there was a position that was missing at the end, leaving the last symbols in place, we would leave a 3 at the end. We would leave a 3 or a 2, for example. And now, since we're going to be sorting this in reverse alphabetical order, we're going to take the latest position, and we'll mark that with a 1, which in this case represents the Whiskey. The 2 is going to be the Lima, and the 3 is going to be the Bravo. So now, what we have here is we have our little grid of numbers, and now what we want to do here is we're going to come down and note our final difference. With ad nauseam, what you would have is you would have a timer, and once the timer ended, what would happen is that you would have the timer would essentially be the submission for that module. That's why it's in base 4. However, with this, the 3 represents the submit button for that symbol. So that's going to be how you actually submit this module, because it's not as simple as just submitting an answer into the module here. So now we're going to encode the base 3 digits obtained in step 1 into symbols and enter them into the module. So this is going to be what we're going to do here, and that's why it's only going to be 0 through 2, because 3 is going to be our submit. So we have 1, which is in the bottom right position, which represents the $sign. We're going to enter that twice. $sign. Okay. 2. Now, the way that we know that we're in the correct position is if we press $sign here, and we were over in this position, $sign would have represented our 3, and that would have given us a strike immediately, so we know that we're in the correct position and we've done things correctly. Because that would have been our submit button, and we wouldn't have had anything submitted at that point. So let's take a look here. So now we have 2, which is represented by top right, which is going to be the euro symbol, and 0, which is going to be the and sign, top left. Okay, now that we have that submitted, we're going to simply press the hash, which is in the bottom left, which represents the 3. And just like that is a solved module. So there we go. That's the way how that works. Just a couple key differences from ad nauseam for those of you who do know ad nauseam. It's kind of like two tutorials in one. But with subtract nauseam, it's sort of like a practice for ad nauseam. It's a very simple concept to do, and there's only 10 prompts for it as well. So let's go into one more example. I'm going to do this a little bit faster because now that you guys understand how this works, obviously we can go through this a little bit faster. I'm going to close ad nauseam as well. But yeah, those are the big differences. And the module will strike and reset if the wrong answer is given to the prompt, or the submission does not match the passcode, or is incomplete. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay. So generally what I like to do first, and this is absolutely be preferable here, is if we happen to We can obviously prep this, and we can do this in the way that we can actually prep the serial number and the positions of the numbers, essentially. We can do this immediately. So we've got Echo Echo Charlie, so we already have we don't have 4 symbols here. So we're going to be doing 0, and then we have Echo Echo Charlie. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look here. And I believe that this is in reading order that it worries about, because I haven't had the issue with duplicates, and I don't think it has any particular issues with it. So there'll be 1 and 2, and the Charlie, since it's the earliest in alphabetical order, would be the 3. I do believe that that is the case. It doesn't mention it anywhere, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, we're gonna roll with that. But essentially what I've just done here is whatever position we land on, these will be the positions of each of the digits. So in this case, we happen to have right here the percentage sign, or the modulo in this case, will represent 0, hashtag represents 1, euro represents 2, and the ampersand represents 3. Okay, let's get right into this. Okay, that's going to be question 1, which is to the right. It's going to be 7, which is left. Minimum is going to be a 4, which is up. 6 minus 6 is going to be 0, which is down. 0 plus 4, because 0 is our previous answer, is going to be 4, which is up. 5 minus 2 is going to be 3, which is left. Odd is going to be 7, which is left. 15 minus 5 is going to be 15 divided by 5 is going to be 3 down. Odd is going to be 9 left. And max is going to be 9 left. And looks like we have got lots of lefts here, so this is actually going to be definitely a good position to do work around. Okay, so let's convert our numbers here first. So let's do 1 plus 7 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 7 plus 3 plus 9 plus 9. Okay, 47. So now let's subtract 27 from this, minus 27. That's going to represent 1 for that first position. Then we can subtract 9. We can do this twice, though, so that's going to be 2. We cannot add a 3 to this, so that's going to be a 0. And we can subtract 1 from this twice. So it's going to be 1, 2, 0, 2. Okay, now in our position here, let's take a look. So we have, one of the things I can immediately realize is we have 2 ups and 2 downs. These both are going to cancel each other out, so that's perfect. However, we only have 1 right, and we have a lot of lefts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 lefts here. We only have 1 right. We do not care about that right. And what's going to happen here is that we're going to move 2 of a particular direction. In this case, Lima appears 5 times. In this case, we can move 2 times because of the fact that there's at least 4 and not 6. So we're going to move from the center position left twice, and we're going to result right here. Perfect. And as you can see, these are going to be the exact same symbols that we have on the module. That's perfect. Now all we simply need to do is we need to simply input this code here, 1202, which in this case is going to be top right, which is $, bottom left, which is the and, top left, which is the hashtag, and bottom left, which is the and submit with the percentage sign, or the modulo. Just like that, bada bing, bada boom. Fairly simple to do, not that hard to understand. If you have ad nauseam experience, this is significantly easier, but just understanding the changes is going to be super duper important. And obviously, if you happen to have the exact same letters, in this case, the theory was right, these will be working in reading order. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.